In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure doom decree, where Alf the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to men. So in these lines, the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge narrates how Kubla Khan ordered a stately pleasure house to be built and what was subsequently done to get it built. Kubla Khan ordered the erection of a magnificent pleasure place on the bank of the sacred river Alf, which flowed underground from a long distance through unfathomable caves into a sea where the rays of sun could not penetrate. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground with walls and towers were gilded round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree. And here were forests and ancient as the hills, and folding sunny spots of greenery. So in these lines, accordingly for the purpose, a plot of fertile land covering 10 miles was enclosed with walls and towers all around. On one side of this land, there were gardens full of aromatic trees where sweet smelling flowers bloomed. There were meandering streams flowing through these gardens, making the place exceedingly beautiful. On the other side of the land were thick, primeval forests as old as the hills within which there were plots of grassy land warmed by the rays of sun. Thus, Coleridge creates a vaguely but suggestive romantic palace in reading it. Swinburne observes about these artistic touches, and we are wrapped into the paradise where music and color and perfume are one, where you hear the hues and sees the harmonies of heaven. Next line. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedron cover, a savage place as wholly enchanted, as earth beneath a burning moon was haunted by a woman wailing for her demon lover. So the in these lines the poet says that uh, it highly appreciated for the effortless adaptation of the sound and rhythm to the various part of this description. While describing the beautiful grounds, the poet seems to have been attracted by the most remarkable mysterious chasm which stretched across the hill covered with cedar trees. It simply defied all descriptions and was a highly romantic place and wore a mysterious aspect. It seems an enchanted place haunted by demons and fairies and frequented by a disappointment lady love weeping for her demon lover under the light of the fading moon. In next line, and from this chasm with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast thick bands were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift half intermediate burst, huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail, or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's filling. So in these lines, the poet says the vagueness and mystery of this place suggested witchcraft and its practice as they are associated with such surroundings. From this chasm, a fountain gushed forth every moment so violently that the trembling earth round about appeared like a man breathing hard while dying. It momentarily threw up huge fragments of rock which tossed up and then fell to the ground in all directions like hailstones from the sky or like chaff flying about when crushed with the flood. In next line, and mid these dancing rocks at once and ever, it flung up momently the sacred river, 5 miles meandering with mazy motion through wood and dale, the sacred river ran. Then reached the caverns measureless to men and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean, and mid the tumult Kubla heard from far ancestral voice professing war. So in these lines, in these lines, the poet says that from this chasm also sprang up the sacred river Alf, which followed with a zigzag course for 5 miles through forest and valleys, and then fell into the calm and tranquil ocean through the unfathomable caverns. And it fell into the ocean, it created a great roaring sound. In the midst of the uproarious noise, Kubla Khan heard the voice of his ancestors prophesying that the time was near when he should indulge in ambitious war. In pleasure, in pleasure house, Kubla Khan became addicted to luxury, so his ancestor urged him to shake off his lethargic and luxurious life and be ready for a life of adventure and war. Next line. The shadow of the doom of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. So these lines further describe that charms are oft displayed by the pleasure place of the emperor at Xanadu. The pleasure house of Kubla Khan was a very romantic and beautiful place. The poet says here that the reflection of the pleasure dome fell between the mountain minglingly and with the echoing sound coming out of the caves created for the onlooker an illusion of really rhythmical music. We, okay, next line. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice, a damsel with a dulcimer. In a vision once I saw, it was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Abaran. So, in these lines, the poet further says that the place was the construction of the rare design and a beautiful trim of architecture as it combined in itself a summer and a winter place. The top of the building was warm because it was open to the sun, while the low lying chambers were kept cool by ice which never melted. So, in these next lines, the Coleridge introduced a beautiful girl brought from a distant country to complete the picture of the romantic atmosphere. He says that once in his dream he saw a girl who was brought up from Abyssinian. She was singing of her native land Abyssinia and Mount Abora. The poets mean to suggest that her song showed homesickness. She had been brought up from her country to a distant land, China, and wanted to return home and to play freely and happily once more with the other girls of happy country. In other lines, could I revive within me her symphony and songs to such a deep delight quite win me, that with music loud and long I would build that dome in air. So in these lines, These lines concluded that unfinished poem. When the poet saw an Abyssinian girl singing a melodious song and producing an exquisite melody on her dulcimer in the pleasure of the palace of Kubla Khan, his imagination was seized by the great power of music. That with music loud and long, I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome, those caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there. And all should cry, beware, beware, his flashing eyes, his floating hair. So, in these lines, the poet says that if he could recall or learn the ravishing music of the Abyssinian girl, he would build the beautiful palace of Kubla Khan in the air. He would be filled with his swelling notes, helped by his quickened imagination. He would be able to reconstruct the whole scene. The long practice of this divinely inspired music will enable to reproduce the whole palace in the air as beautiful and eternal as the palace of Kubla Khan together with its sunny dome and cave of ice. Further, he says that his imagination or his inspired imagination would create a willing suspension of disbelief, and the reader who would feel that the entire beauty of the palace has been captured from them. They would be struck with awe created by his flashing eyes, streaming hair, and lips. Wave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he on honey dew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise. So, his present condition would frighten them so much that they would guard themselves against come into close contact with him in order to save themselves from being infected by his magical charm. They would confine him within a magical circle 3 times. The poet has tasted the manna and the nectar of divine poetic inspiration and has developed a catching influence of music in his looks. In order to save themselves from the effect of his charm, they would shut their eyes. So, this is the poem Kubla Khan, written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Samuel Taylor Coleridge is known for its vivid imagery and use of the supernatural, which are both prominent in Kubla Khan, and he was also known for his experimentation with form and language as seen in the complex structure of this poem. And Coleridge claims in the preface that he was interrupted while writing and could therefore not finish the poem as he has planned. It was not until he was encouraged by Lord Byron to do so that Coleridge published the piece. So today, the poem is considered to be if one of, or if not the most famous example of romanticism in the English literature. So hope you like this poem. If you like this poem, please share, like and comment.